Do you have a pile of pretty paper scraps that you just can't bear to throw away? Today, I'll show you how to turn those scraps into stunning cards. And stick around to the end for a special bonus tip on how I store my scraps efficiently. Hi everyone, I'm Nancy Novak and welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, we'll be making 3 beautiful cards using leftover pretty paper scraps. And I'm also going to be using the Unbounded Love stamp set. I'm focusing basically on making a card when you just have a sentiment and what do you do with it and you have pretty paper. So I have 3 cards to share with you. I'm excited to get to these cards. And by the way, the Unbounded Love stamp set coordinates with these dies. So these dies are perfect to place your sentiments on, and these work with all your stamps. So I'm sure you can find one of your stamp greetings that's going to fit in a bunch of these different shapes and sizes. Plus they're pretty. They have a lot of little detail to them. So we're going to get to that also. And our first card is going to be done with a card base of Summer Splash. So I scored it right in the middle there. And then I have a piece on the inside, a piece of white and a piece of white for the front. And this is a scrap of white. And also, we're going to use some of this pretty shimmer paper. So this is the Summer Splash. You get this in a pack of 5 sheets in all of the new in colors. So really pretty and versatile, and I love using it. So scraps, let's bring in our scraps. So I have a bunch of scraps that I cut, little rectangles, and I cut this out of the Unbounded Beauty Designer Series paper. So we're going to take the front of our card, and this is 5 1/4 by 4, and these strips are, I think they're about 1 1/4 by 1 5/8. But don't worry about the sizes because I always have a free project sheet for you. So you'll be able to get all the sizes, the supplies, and the shopping links after the video is done. And by the way, I have some exciting news. So I've heard from some of you that finding my project sheets hasn't always been easy. So to make sure that you're getting them without any hassle, I'm excited to announce a new way of distribution. Starting now, I will email the project sheets directly to you every week. All you need to do is sign up for my newsletter. It's that simple, and you'll receive the project sheet every Wednesday evening after my video. So I'll schedule it to go out about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll go right to your email. But don't worry, you can still visit my blog and you get all the details about today's tutorial, and that's where you're going to see great big pictures of today's projects. So sign up for my newsletter to ensure you never miss out on my project sheet. Again, I'll have a link for that in the video description down below. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and put these pretty pieces on our card base. Actually, we're going to put it on our white layer. So we'll do something like this. Like I said, this is about 5 1/4 by 4. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of snail on the back of these just to position them the first time. And there's just a very slight border of that white showing. And just by using that snail, it'll allow me to make sure that I lay these down nice and even. Then I can pick it up when I'm ready and then glue them down. Okay, so just by using that little bit of snail, I made sure that everything's going to be nice and even. And then these I can just pick up really quickly, glue them down, and put them down so they're nice and permanently fixed to our card base. But that's the beginning of our card. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down real quick. Don't forget, I fast forward so you don't have to watch all that boring stuff. And then we'll finish the front of our card. Okay, all nice and even and very, very pretty. That paper is just gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the front of our card base, and then we're going to do something with that pretty, pretty glittery shimmer paper. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a scrap of the glitter paper and a scrap of white, and I'm going to use one of the dies from the Unbounded Beauty set. So this has this pretty rectangle with some leaves on it, and I'm going to cut one out in the glimmer paper and one out in the white, and I will be right back. Okay, so when you cut it out, you get two little pieces. This piece I'm going to save. In fact, I'll show you where I'm going to save all my scraps later on as my little bonus tip in this video. And then this one here, we're just going to use the white piece. So I'll save the little outline for another card. Okay, so on this piece here, the white piece, we're going to do a little stamping. So I'm going to bring in Petunia Pop. And like I said, there's many, many sentiments in this Unbounded Love set, and I am going to bring in Happy Birthday. Look how pretty that is. And it fits perfectly in this little die. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on our sentiment, and I'm going to put it right about there. Not in the center, just a little bit below. Then I'm going to bring in my little silicone mat, and I'm going to dab some glue on this very fine little die and place it on the front of our card. I'm just going to blot off all that extra glue on my silicone mat. And I'm just going to lay it back down, and it fits right around our sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the In Color resin dots, and we're going to put a couple right here on our sentiment. Okay, so that's the front of the card. Pretty with that beautiful, beautiful paper. And then for the inside, I'm going to bring in one more die. I'm going to bring in this leaf die. And again, I'm going to use that shimmer paper, and I'm going to cut out a leaf, and we're going to put on the inside of our card. Okay, so we're going to bring back in our Petunia Pop, and we're going to bring in another sentiment from the Unbounded Love, and we're going to stamp on the inside, "May all your wishes come true." And then here's that piece that I cut out. So we'll add a little bit of glue, and we're going to lay it right there. Okay, now we'll glue that to the inside of our card. And card number 1. So with just a sentiment stamp set and some pretty paper and a little bit of the dies. Now, if you didn't have the dies, obviously you could just cut out a rectangle or a circle or do something pretty like that. But these coordinating dies are just gorgeous. And of course, the shimmer paper really, really makes it pop. So card number 1 is done. Now let's go on to card number 2. Okay, so for card number 2, we're using a card base of Petunia Pop. And we have more of that pretty designer series paper. That's called Unbounded Love. So we have several scraps, a little teeny tiny scrap. Our card base is Petunia Pop. We have a white piece for the inside and a white piece for the front. Actually, we have 2 white pieces for the front. So this is scored. This is 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4 1/4. But I'm going to score it one more time, and I wanted to wait to do that with you. Okay, so this is the front of our card, and I'm going to score it at 1 1/4. So we scored it at 1 1/4 and 4 1/4. So I'm just going to take that piece that we just scored, the 1 1/4, and I'm going to fold it back. Okay, so the white pieces are our layered pieces, and the designer series paper is going to be glued right on top, and I just have a little teeny tiny border. And the same thing for this piece here. Whoops. That piece there. So that's how I'm going to glue them on, and we're going to put them on the front of the card. Okay, before we go any further, I want to talk about the designer series paper. So you have 3 sizes of designer series paper: the largest one, the smallest one, and then the medium-sized one. So on the front of our card is going to be the largest and the smallest we flipped over, so we're using the opposite side. This piece is going to go on the inside. And then we're going to do something with this for our sentiment. Okay, so this is going to be glued right there. Then I'm going to glue that piece down and glue the little strip right there. Okay, so far so good. So we have a white scrap. We're going to use this die right here. And this is the die that has a little bit of a dotted outline. These two look similar, but this one has the dotted outline. So we're going to cut that out in white. And then I have this little scalloped piece that we're going to cut out of the designer series paper. So let me cut those out real quick and I will be right back. Okay, so the white piece looks like that. It has that little bit of a dotted edge all the way around. And then our designer series paper is this piece here, which I'm going to save for another card. It's really cute. You could stamp on it. You could stamp the word hello from this stamp set because it fits perfectly on here. But I wanted the outside edge, so let me break that away. And it's a little scallop, and it's really, really pretty. So I have the white piece and our little cutout piece from the designer series paper. And before I glue that down, I'm going to stamp. So I'm going to stamp in Petunia Pop, and I'm going to stamp the word friend. So I'm just going to position this so it's kind of where it's going to be. Okay, so I'm going to glue this little outline piece on. Even that side's pretty. I'm going to glue it so this side is showing, so very, very pretty. So let's put a little bit of glue on here and blot it off. Okay, let's do the inside real quick. So on the inside, I want to stamp "Have a blessed day." There's so many sentiments you could use. I mean, it's got "Feel better soon," "You are loved," "You've got this." So it has a lot of really good sentiments that you can send to your friend. So let's stamp that in Petunia Pop. So this piece of designer series paper is going to be glued right over here on the right side of this white piece, and then I'm going to glue everything to the inside of the card. So that's the inside. And then for the front, we're going to pop up our sentiment on dimensionals. Just like that. So I'm keeping it simple, and I didn't add a lot of extras because sometimes you don't have to, right? But if you wanted to, there's also the Flowers of Beauty die set, which has some beautiful flowers and sprigs that you can add. So you could add something to this card if you wanted to make it a little bit fancier. I love it the way it is. I think it's just gorgeous. I love all that designer series paper, and that's what we're talking about in today's card making, is this pretty designer series paper. But we're going to make one more card using scraps of designer series paper, and I am going to use the Flowers of Beauty die, so I'll show you how that works. So this card is going to use peach pie as its card base, and then we have a piece of white for the inside. I have a little piece of white for the front, and then I have strips of the designer series paper. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and lay our white strip down on the front of the card. Then I'm going to bring in, we have 4 strips. One's going to be for the inside. I'm going to lay these strips down on the front of the card. So first I'm going to lay the outside ones, and then I'll lay the inside one. That'll make it easier to line up. Okay, then I'm going to bring in a scrap of the peach pie, and I'm going to bring in this die right here from the Flowers of Beauty, and we're going to cut out that big, pretty sprig, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that sprig is going to go right there. So we have to go ahead and glue that down. Then I'm going to bring in a scrap, and I'm going to bring in this die right here, and I'm going to use peach pie ink for my sentiment. And then I'm going to cut it out with this die. And yes, it fits perfectly. I'm just lining up the very top of the word with to the bottom of the die. And when I cut it out, it fits perfectly. I'll be right back. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to put that right over here. And I'm going to pop it up. And I think I'll add a few little of these dots. I am going to keep it all the same color because it's a sympathy card. I just want it to be very subtle. If you wanted to change this into a different card, you could use Petunia Pop, which is also in this designer series paper. So that's the front of the card. And like I said, I kept it all very neutral colors because it's a sympathy card. If you wanted to change the sentiment, the stamp set has so many sentiments that you could use, and you could even put some glimmer paper on here if you wanted to make it really pop. But for our sympathy card, I think this is very, very subtle and comforting and pretty. And then the inside, we're going to take that other strip of designer series paper, and we're going to lay it right here on the inside. Then we'll glue this to the inside of our card. And there you go. I'm leaving it blank. You can write a little nice little note on the inside. So let's look at all three cards. So before we go any further, let me tell you my little tip on how I store all my little scrap designer series paper. So I have these great big containers that store my 12 by 12 paper, and I keep my current paper in this teal box. All the other boxes that I have are clear, but every time I grab this teal one, I know it's the current designer series paper that Stampin' Up! Has. And as far as the little scraps go, just go to the Dollar Tree, get yourself a little plastic container. They have tons of them. This one opens up like this. This is probably a DVD holder, but I've got several of these little plastic ones that I've gotten from the Dollar Tree. And then whenever I have little scraps from the designer series paper, I throw them in this little box. And I find it, I've done it so many different ways, and I find that this is the easiest, because if I throw these little scraps in that great big box, I am constantly flipping through that paper, moving that paper, trying to find the little scraps that have fallen to the side or stuck in between. But anytime you have designer series paper, just throw it in here, and I save all my little scraps. This is going to make something. I'm not sure what, maybe a star or two, but I save all these little scraps. And like you said, the strips are perfect for putting on the inside of a card. So save all your scraps, put them all in a little plastic container, and then I just throw this container in that great big box, and I know where to find it next time I need it. So let's look at tonight's cards one more time before we go. So basically just using scraps of designer series paper and a stamp set with lots of great sentiments, and look at the pretty cards that you can make. What do you think about them? Do you have a favorite? So let's look at them one more time. Have a blessed day. What a beautiful card to send to a friend. We have a birthday card with a little pretty paper on the inside, that pretty shimmery, glimmery paper. And then we have a sympathy card. So I hope you enjoyed creating these cards with me. If you felt inspired and you want to add this stamp set and the die set to your collection, you can find the links in the description down below in this video, also on my blog, and also with the project sheet. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter so you get your project sheet. I'll make it really easy for you. I'll just email it right to you. You don't have to search for it. And I will be back next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here with me. Don't be shy. Stamp and shout.